Talk for a quick minute about Norway
Yeah.
and Springsteen.
Oh, okay.
Just for a minute.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I just had a fantasy that everyone in Norway is obsessed with Bruce Springsteen. It's not untrue, but no, I went on a long walk in northern Spain and met a guy from Norway, and he was like singing Bruce Springsteen songs. I was like, that's not a Bruce Springsteen song. He's like, yes, it is. I'm like, no, it's not. And then turns out, yes, it was. So then I started thinking. I had a long time to think on the walk, but I started thinking about, how like the export of American culture and how it can become embodied in people like Elvis. Elvis has a big role in one of my first films, and now it's Bruce Springsteen. So it's just thinking about how other cultures process our pop culture and what that means to them, and also I was thinking about long walks and also letting things go. So this film came about from all those.
Where was it shot?
In Norway, yeah. Yeah, in outside of Oslo, in the woods somewhere, and also in northern Norway, outside of Sortland. That's where we got the reindeer. That's a fantastic story.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So. All right, what do you got? Questions? Anybody? Raise your hands. Here we go. We got a runner for you.
I had a question about the scene on the canoe. How many takes did it take you to do that shot? And because I noticed it was all one take. And were you on a landmass or were you on a boat when you were shooting that?
I have a photograph. It's perfect. So we did have a sound recordist, 19-year-old like Norwegian kid, but he got lost. Couldn't make it because we were in the middle of nowhere and there's no cell phone reception, and so I'm standing there with the boom and DP, and we're in 4 feet of water, like freezing our asses off. It's summer, but it's cold, and so we went over the scene like I knew it was gonna be one take, and so they would have to canoe like all the way back, come into frame. And if it wasn't like perfect, I would cut it, and I'd have to canoe all the way back. That happened probably 8 times, and this was like Elizabeth versus Daniel, the DP, because it was just like he's just like the light, we're losing it, and also I was like, because we wanted the sun, because Anfinn was giving this love letter to his loved one, but also to the sun. It was imperative that the sun be hitting him on the face. But it was a cloudy day, so I prayed to God, and we had to coordinate like the timing of the canoe hitting that spot with the sun with a perfect take, and we did 2 takes, and the first one it was brilliant, and Petter dropped an important line, and he gets in and he's just like, I forgot that line. I'm like, oh, it's okay. He's like, it's not okay. We got to do it again. I'm like, oh, okay. And then we did it again like 3 more times, and then finally, but he only went into the water twice, and the second take is the one we took.
Anybody else? Awesome.
What is the story with the reindeer? Because that's a fantastic shot. How did you? Animal wrangling isn't usually something that goes on in a short film, so I'm very curious to.
Well, I was the animal wrangler. I had a bucket of reindeer food, and they followed me. They got wise, so that was like a 2-take deal as well, because they weren't interested anymore. Like they followed me with a bucket only twice. The story is, I went to Oslo. I had written reindeer into the short film, and then I didn't really think about how I was going to get reindeer. I was like, I'll just show up to Norway. There'll be reindeer, right? I Wikipedia'd it. It seemed like it was going to be fine. I get to Oslo, and I'm like, oh, there's no reindeer in Oslo, obviously. It's a city. So I started going to dinner parties and talking to people. And there, I was like, do you know any reindeer? Like, how I can get some reindeer? And finally, someone suggested. They're like, well, I'm from Tromsø, which is like north, and they're like, there are some towns, and maybe they're reindeer. So I just started contacting tourist boards, and they were very friendly. And I got this one woman, Lila, and they're like, there's a lady. She's really nice, and she has reindeer. So I contacted her, and I was like, I need to come fly to your place to scout these reindeer that you have. And she says, well, no, I'm busy. I'm going calf markering, which is they notch the ears like they do with cattle. Yeah, and out into the wild, up to the mountains. And I was like, oh, can I come? And she was like, yeah, okay, but you have to live like us. They're Sami. They're actually the last indigenous people in Europe. Yep. And my dad's Native American, so I was very intrigued by this. And I flew up there, and we weren't really communicating, so I was just like sitting in a I know you feel sorry for me, but I was sitting like in an inn by the sea, like waiting for my phone call. And finally she contacts me, and she's like, I'm sorry, I've been in the mountains. And I hiked with her 2 daughters up the mountains and up into the mountains and stayed with them in their hut. And we went reindeer herding like all night and all day. And it was, there's no, it's like 24-hour sun, right? So it was just a brilliant experience. So I met the wild reindeer, and then she also had a few domesticated reindeer. And when we came back and shot, we used them. So
You use the domesticated ones?
yeah.
Because the cut that I saw, there were only like a couple of reindeer.
Yeah.
But this one, there were a lot of reindeer.
Yeah, we had a lot.
Cool.
This is the director's cut. It's the long cut, so it could be shorter. I'm interested in feedback on that. So,
What else we got? Any other questions? Feedback?
Yeah, I don't want to get too nerdy about like the canon of landscape, but I do know that Norway has a really rich history with folkloric stuff and with landscape, and you had some really beautiful panoramic shots. So I wondered if you wanted to talk about that just a bit.
yeah. Well, so I'm honing in on folklore there because one thing I travel internationally quite a bit, but one thing I've been thinking about is fairy tales, and in my conversations with people, international people, I've been asking them about their fairy tales, and they're like telling me about trolls and like this and that. Like, what are your fairy tales? And I was like, oh no, we import the fairy tales, and then we export pop culture. But I realized also that wasn't true. We have tall tales, and like Paul Bunyan and like going west, and so for me, this is kind of a trade it's a tall tale in Norway. Tall tale being the Bruce Springsteen character. That's one thing. And then as far as the decision about the decision about the cinematography really came from Tarkovsky. I'm just gonna say like I just watched a bunch of it and then just ripped it off. So sorry, it's not original. Yeah.
More questions? There you go.
Yeah, quick question. The relative or loved one that has passed away, is there any significance or relation to Bruce's Stevie within the story? Just curious.
Bruce's what?
Stevie, who he talks about.
Steve. Yeah, okay, so this is a coincidence. So I wrote this script. I didn't know much about Bruce at all, except for what I learned from the Norwegian. And I wrote the script and started doing pre-production from the United States. And I was originally talking to a production team in Bergen, which is in the West. And they read the script and they're like, "Oh, we love it. This is about Steve, right?" I'm like, Steve Van Zandt. I'm like, I didn't say no. I was just like, yeah, but I had no idea. And I realized that like Steve lives in Norway and he does Lilyhammer. right? Do y'all know this Netflix series? Yeah. So, So I feel like Bruce and I are on the same page there.
Communing.
So anyway, it doesn't. Yeah, that was a coincidence. Is all I can say about that. And yeah, Bruce's ties to Norway, I had no idea. Now I do. Steve, are you watching this? All right. I don't know.
Anything else?
Cool. Well, I'd love to chat with people after the film to get some more like reactions, because this is a kind of a test screening and pre-screening before festival runs. So
Before we let you go, I'm curious about sort of the existential nature of it. Bruce just found himself there 2 years ago, woke up there. Is there anything you want to enlighten us about that?
Well, I would like to say, what do you think?
No?
No? Okay. I think it's pretty clear that Bruce is part of Anfinn's psyche.
And it was the same letter, right? The letter that he was writing is the letter that then Bruce asked him to give to Steve.
That would have been smart.
No? Well, I don't
No.
speak Norwegian, so I.
No, it's not. It's not. But that's actually. But the fact there is a mirroring there. There's a parallel that they both wrote letters, and it's to someone that can't really be reached. So, and I think, there is the giveaway that Bruce. Right, Bruce can also understand Norwegian. I don't know if you got that, Jim, from like when Anfinn was speaking in Norwegian, or in the boat. He's like, oh, the summer solstice was yesterday. So there are a little bit of clues, but I think Bruce is clearly not Bruce Springsteen. But I also don't think it matters. I think to Anfinn, he's just a guy that helps him. So, yeah. Yeah. So I had bigger plans for the ring, where we would have a cutaway that the ring would have been an artifact from the bottom of the lake, and that would have been revealed in a close-up, which wasn't taken. And at the time, I decided it didn't matter. Now I'm wondering if it does matter, and I've gotten some feedback that I should just cut the ring at the end, because it opens up a new can of worms. So that's like some things I'm thinking about. But originally, the ring was the point is like Anfinn is not really letting go. He just keeps gathering more crap, right? As he goes along, and whatever he says goodbye to, it's already gone.
And the whole next year thing, is there?
Yeah, because he missed the summer solstice.
Okay.
He took a long nap. Yeah.
So in the jar, what was in the jar?
Ashes.
Okay,
Yeah.
but what is he?
He's putting the ashes back in his cardigan, and then.
Right. But next year, he's going to bring more ashes, or?
Well, he would have gotten them from the bottom of the lake. Yeah.
Okay.
He says I think I got some of it, which maybe I should subtitle that because it's Norwegian English. But this is information. Like, I think that's pretty important that people hear. I think I got some of it. Yeah. Yeah. And I would love to hear y'all's feedback on this, because these are some. I don't think I have to answer everything, but there are a couple of things that I think are important for the film. Anything else? Yeah. And maybe that's wonderful in itself. Like to me, and I've gotten some other feedback, and people do actually kind of create their own saga along with it, and I appreciate that as well.
Anything else? Okay. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you.